Don't call it a comeback until we do it again. Don't call it a comeback until we do it again. Good morning, it's Cobbs with the Parlay Parlor, and we're here on January 28th at another day of NBA props, bets, data, and advice. Let's do a recap of last night, and this is the start that we love to see. 5 for 6, and honestly, on the one prop that chalked us, Ashar Thompson, he gets 5 fouls by the third quarter, but he has 4 rebounds. In a game where it goes to the final possession and the Nuggets could have forced overtime, but Jamal Murray misses a free throw when he gets fouled, taking a 3-point attempt. I'm not gonna lie, even with 5 fouls, if this goes to OT, I think the Pistons take the risk on whether or not Thompson gets fouled out, and at least they give him a minute or two at least in overtime to try to help them. But in any case, if this type of circumstance is what stops the sweep, I'm okay with that, because that means that the reads were right. He was just a little bit too aggressive trying to get the boards, and honestly, 9 times out of 10, I take this again. I will admit that in yesterday's video, I did admit that this was more of a comfort pick for me. It was one that maybe, as much as the data did back it up, it was a prop that I've consistently taken in the past. So maybe that recency bias, not in terms of his own box score, but in terms of my recency bias to how much he's reached that line. But in any case, the past is the past. Let's move on. We have a full slate of games today, but I decided to just go with 4 props. The idea is maybe I stretched myself a little bit too thin, but I did just want to try to give myself as much volume as possible just to see where the reads are. But again, let's get into it. So first, we're going to go to the Chicago Bulls and the Indiana Pacers game, and I'm going to go with Nikola Vucevic with 4 assists. Currently, right now, the best price you can get this on is on DraftKings. Other books like FanDuel and the selection apps are heavily juicing it. I would not be surprised if by tip-off this goes to 4.5, and there's a reason why. I mean, if you look at it across the season, Vucevic has been hitting this at a consistent clip. Sure, head-to-head, there's not much that looks enticing, but again, there's a lot of old data that we don't want to go into. But if we look more recently, Vucevic has been facilitating at an extremely high rate. I mean, he's getting full minutes again. I dare say we're seeing prime Vucevic, or the best iteration of him in some time. In terms of the potential assist, this is what we love to see. I mean, in the worst case scenario, if you're converting your potential assist at a 50% clip, and he's averaging 8, 9, 8, 10, 17, 13. The only thing that you could potentially be concerned about, the matchup is great, I believe. Yep, the Pacers are ranked 18th in the league. So that would be, they are the 12th worst team at defending assists to center positions. The one thing that I was concerned about is, yes, we do have a close to fully healthy Chicago Bulls team. Trey Jones would be out, but again, that shouldn't eat too much into Vucevic's usage and facility. The main concern would be the likes of Kobe White and Josh Giddey, as they both respectively together and separately had multiple games out, and I thought that that was potentially where it was coming into it, with the facilitation role of Vucevic going up so much, and that what does lean into it. When those two are on the court, a lot of the usage that the Bulls will use will go through them. Of course, you have Kobe White, who, as streaky as he is, he can be a black hole on offense, or he can have the game of his life on any given day. And you have Josh Giddey, who on any given day will average a triple-double. But if we look at the most recent games with both of them back, yes, the numbers are going down, but again, these are pretty daunting matchups. I mean, Minnesota, his matchup would be one of Rudy Gobert and Jaden McDaniels and Naz Reid, depending on the matchup. Milwaukee, I would have to see if that was December, so I want to say Giannis was still playing. So you have Giannis, Miles Turner, a Bucks team that wasn't as down and out as they more recently have been. If we do take them out and we just look at it in general, of course, in the most recent games, he has been consistently hitting this, and this has probably been, I know Kobe White played in this and Josh Giddey didn't. I think this was Josh Giddey's first game back and Kobe White played, and Kobe White didn't play. So again, it was one of the two that were out. Again, as we saw in most when we just filtered it, this is when they were both playing. And again, daunting matchup. One or the other did not play. I think this was Josh Giddey that was rested, and I think again in the most recent game, they all played actually. I think they all played, and he got that. In terms of fouls, because of what happened last night, it's not really much of a concern, to be honest. And if we look at centers that have recently gone against the Pacers in terms of hit rate with it, we don't really see many playmaking type centers. Joel Embiid is in there, Derek Queen is there. Joel Embiid got his line, Derek Queen didn't. Derek Queen is a rookie, but even when you look at the likes of Chet Holmgren, Okongwu, guys that don't technically, their role isn't to be at any point of the defense to try to create for people, but when they're going to get an easy rebound, or if they get a matchup that they don't like scoring on, they more often than not will relay that ball off to a creator or a guy that can make the shot for himself. So in terms of just getting 4 assists, I'm very happy with it now. If it does go to 4.5 and that becomes the line at plus money right now, if you do see this late and you still have a number on that, I honestly probably would jump on it. The thing is, this is the parlay parlor. You know that we're going to try to parlay all of these, and we would water down in some cases, just like last night with Osher Thompson. But if you wanted to do that, go ahead. The value is there. For 3.5, I am content with that. Next, we are going to go over to Toronto, and we have the Knicks taking on the Raptors. And my pick is going to be RJ Barrett, 7 rebounds and assists. Currently, the best price again is DraftKings. We have it at -140. Again, it's heavily juiced across other books. This would be another prop. I would not be surprised if by closing this goes up to 7.5. At that point, I would be okay with taking it. That's fair value on certain selection apps. If it goes to 8.5, I mean, it's already a price pick, quote unquote, demon. I wouldn't be too comfortable taking it there, but the narrative is there with us. The data is there, especially with this positionless basketball that the Raptors play, where essentially they kind of play 5 everything. If you can create, you're going to create. If you can score, you're going to score. If you can crash the boards, you're going to crash the boards. And it's been working great for them. I mean, this is the first time since, I want to say maybe the Kawhi time and the last Siakam year, that the Raptors aren't just perennial playing. They're probably going to qualify for the playoffs, and they're going to be probably one of the dark horses out of the East. They always are, but there seems to be something going on with them, and it's looking good. Let's see what happens by the trade deadline. I would honestly love to see Ja Morant there. I don't know what kind of package they would have to send in return. Hopefully, if they can do something that doesn't really gut the current iteration of this team or the future, that would be great. But let's get back into it. RJ Barrett, 7 rebounds and assists. Like I said recently, the recency bias is definitely there. He's gotten it. When he goes against the Knicks, sure, there's a lot of old data. Everything would be from last season. I will admit that. But again, in this case, we could always have to look at the revenge plot theory, the revenge game narrative. And whenever he goes up against New York, I think he was their 3rd overall pick. He was a lottery pick for the Knicks. I remember that for sure back in 2018, 19. Didn't really end well there. He was injured a lot. And I think there's some Knicks fans that think fondly of him. I wouldn't say he had a bad time in New York, but in any case, they're going up to Toronto to face the Raptors. A Raptors in form, a Knicks team that's in form as well themselves, especially after that players meeting that Brunson called after that abysmal run they went through after winning the NBA Cup. And when we look in terms of the matchup, the Knicks aren't the best matchup in terms of assist allowed, but again, with this positionless basketball that the Raptors play, I'm not concerned too much about it, and this is why we're lumping in the rebounds as well, since RJ Barrett can rebound, and the Knicks are the 9th worst team in the league at rebounding to the small forward position. So when we look at 6.5, or even 7, if they take that line up, I'm okay with it. I mean, he's back from injury. He's getting very consistent minutes again. He's getting high 20s, low 30s in terms of competitive outcomes, keeping his hands to himself relatively. And rebounds, in terms of the offensive and defense, I'm not going to look too much into it. He's getting the rebound chance that I like, and again, the positionless basketball that the Raptors are playing, the potential assists are there. Another one that I did potentially want to lean into, because again of that revenge game narrative, would have been the PRA. It was originally 20.5, but now it's 21.5. I'm not against it. If it continues to go up, I would start to be a little bit apprehensive, but again, I wouldn't be comfortable taking an under on RJ Barrett on anything south of 25 PRA, honestly, because of how streaky of a shooter that he can tend to be himself. In terms of the field goal attempts that he's taking, I mean, he's taking enough shots within 10 shots. He shoot at a 40% clip. If he can facilitate in other ways, 20 PRA is perfect. 21.5 PRA, that makes me feel not as bad leaning into the rebounds and assists now. But again, if you did want to lean to either taking 7.5 rebounds and assists or taking the PRA for more value, I wouldn't be against it. Me personally, I'm going to take 6.5. I honestly might take PRA if it goes back down to 20.5. But RJ Barrett, 7 rebounds and assists. I like it. Let's move on. If you're still watching so far into this, I do want to say thank you. I do appreciate it. If you can like and subscribe, that would go a long way to helping me continue to make these videos, and I will try to get more, gravitas and production done in the presentation. Let's get maybe a template, a background. At some point, I'll get a haircut and get a webcam so you guys can see what this voice looks like. But let's move on. We're gonna go to the final game of the night, and we'll have 2 props from the same game. We're gonna go to Utah, and we're gonna have the Warriors taking on the Jazz. Last night, we went with Isaiah Collier under on the PRA because the main facilitator, honestly, in my opinion, he should be an all-star for the West. Maybe not a starter, but a reserve. We're gonna go with Keontae George. He was given some rest last night after, I think, 12 games in a row, something like that. But I think the stat was he shot like 50 something times in the last 3 games. So much needed rest. Utah got wiped by the Clippers. That has to be expected. Now they take on a Golden State Warriors team who themselves aren't doing the best when it comes to injuries. Of course, Jimmy Butler is out. They're also missing Jonathan Kuminga. Stephen Curry and Draymond are both questionable, but it's obviously on the second leg of a back-to-back. After they played Minnesota 2 times, it was expected that they weren't going to play 1 game, and that was what they had. And that game was the second one of the back-to-back with Minnesota after it was postponed due to the events over there. But even with a Warriors team that is relatively at strength minus Butler and Kuminga really wasn't playing much anyway, I like this line for Keontae George. Of course, going against the Warriors 2 times this season, he's over it in only 1 instance. And the second time, he just barely missed it at 31 PRA. Points and assist. If I open that with PRA, I am sorry. The pick is Keontae George, 32 points and assist. If we look across the season, he's hitting this at a 56% clip, 60% in the last 5 games, 50 in the last 10, and 55 in the last 20. When we look at the field goal attempts, I mean, again, it's this kid's year. He is scoring at a not a relative to the at a pretty efficient clip. I mean, you're getting some 50s, some 40s, some 60s here. But again, it's just the volume of shots that he's taken. I mean, 31.5 points and assists. This is something that he could very well cover by himself in points. I wouldn't be comfortable taking an under on it. The matchup is pretty favorable when it comes to the scoring. Much around the assisting, not as much, because of course the Jazz aren't the best team in the league, but Lauri Markkanen is back in the lineup. He came back from a pretty, I wouldn't say a long absence from the team, but I think he didn't play like the last 3 games before yesterday against the Clippers, and he came back. Markkanen isn't the one that's typically resting on back-to-backs if he's healthy. He didn't play much of the fourth quarter since it was a blowout. He only played 29 minutes. And as you can see, he's also another prop that we're going with. He's the final prop we're going with, which would lean into it. But I guess I just wanted to say that when Keontae George plays with Lauri Markkanen, it's at a phenomenal clip this season. It goes up to 58%. And when we look at the last 20 games, it's 65%. Last 10 games, 60%. And let's not lie, the last 5 games, it was a pretty uncompelling 40%. But when we look at those matchups, again, it was the one where he just went under against Golden State, Portland, and Dallas. Relatively decent matchups, depending on how you look at it. But when Markkanen plays, Keontae and him seem to have a pretty good connection in tandem. He seems to find him more often than others, and Lauri Markkanen in his own regard is having a phenomenal year. So for 32 points and assists, like I said, he can cover this in points alone. He's getting high minutes, he's playing minutes. He's going through the free throw line. I've got a great clip because he is very confident in this season. And the potential assist, this is something where if he ends up on 22, 23 points, I am comfortable with having to hope that he needs to get 6, 7, 8 assists to cover this line. When we look at recent point guards to play the Warriors, when we look at the ones that haven't reached that line, they are point guards that don't have the role that Keontae has. I mean, Mike Conley's coming off the bench, Ryan Nembhard as well. Davion Mitchell is much more of a defense and pass point guard, and LaMelo Ball, this was the first game that I think that he was coming off the bench, or the game right before he started coming off the bench. And Miles McBride, who I think played in role of Jalen Brunson. So when you look at point guards that do hit this line, Bones Highland played since it was the back-to-back. Brandon Williams played, I think, in this. Yeah, Brandon Williams did play that game. Iman quickly had a career night against them, and Jamal Shed as well. So even backup point guards in the right role are able to facilitate against the Warriors. Keontae George, 32 points and assists. I like it. I did look into his points alone at 26. I'm not against it as well. It is at a slightly lesser clip, and the head-to-head, again, just one out of two times this season. Points and assists, I want to take that just to give us just more options. Keontae George, 32 points and assists at -114 on FanDuel, and it's priced pretty evenly across the books. And the final pick for tonight, we're going to stay in Utah, and we're going to go to Lauri Markkanen, rebounds and assist, 8, currently on FanDuel at -146. It's the only book that it's on right now, which has me to believe that this is going to be another one that's probably going to close at a higher line, probably 8.5. And again, there's reason for it. Consistently, especially after Walker Kessler got his season-ending surgery, and it's essentially been a front court of Nurkic and Markkanen when healthy. He's hitting this at a very high clip, 100% in the last 5, 80% in the last 10, 90% in the last 20. Across this season, he's hitting this at a 75% clip. When we look at only home games, he's hitting this at an even better clip at home. When we look against the Warriors, again, that's way too long. We're not going to look at last season. But against the Warriors, he's gotten this again 1 out of 2 times, and it was a very relatively close blowout, and only by 1 rebound and assist. The matchup is relatively favorable to us. The Warriors are the 8th worst team in the league to defend in rebounds to the power forward position, and they are the 17th worst team when it comes to defending assists to this position. So for Lauri Markkanen to get this for us, I'm very comfortable with him getting 5-6 rebounds, and we need him to get 3 assists. Or 2 assists, sorry, maths are off. Or if he gets 5 rebounds, 3 assists, hopefully 6 rebounds for 2 assists. When we look at it, whenever Markkanen is healthy, he's going to get full starter minutes, unless it's a pretty compelling blowout like last night was against the Clippers. I think by the 4th quarter they were down like 20 or close to 20. But in other games where they keep it relatively close, not even then, you're going to see Lauri Markkanen get at the minimum low 30s to high 40 minutes if it's any bit of a competitive game. Low 30s to high 30s, apologies there. When we look at power forwards to recently go up against the Warriors, it isn't the most compelling, but again, when we look at the Timberwolves, I mean, Julius Randle and Jaden McDaniels play together, so this really isn't the most reliable data there, since they play as a part of the first unit for the Timberwolves. When you look at PJ Washington, that's probably a more compelling matchup. Sandro Mamu and Scotty Barrett, and they started as well. So again, it shows you back on that RJ Barrett pick, where I'm not too concerned with the rebounds and assists, just because of how much they spread that around. But for Lauri Markkanen, I'm very content with it. Another lean that I did have was on his assist, and it's priced fairly better at minus 128 on FanDuel. It is just 1.5, 2 assists. The potentials are there, not as much though, even though, like I said, I do like you to convert at a 50% clip, but for only 2 assists, it's just a little too low for me. So I would like some buffer, but again, for the value of it, I might just lean for those 2 just because of how long he's gonna play. I mean, if he's getting low 30 minutes, just to pass it 2 times, especially when his matchup is probably going to be one of Draymond Green or Al Horford. He's going to have, I hope, 2 possessions when he touches the ball, and he's going to have to dish it off. In terms of rebound chances, I'm very content with it. He's getting at minimum 12. We're getting some 15s, 18s. Again, if he's converting this at anything close to 50%, we're going to get those 5-6 rebounds, and that'll just mean that we need to lean into just getting a 2 assist. Again, not too bad if you do decide to lean at that minus 128 value on the assist, especially if they do decide to bump this up across other books and apps once those markets open to 8.5. Nurkic probably will come back from illness today and play. I don't think I'm too concerned if that were to be the case, because he still hits this at a very high clip with Nurkic in the team. If we look at it with just Keontae George, again, very high clip. If we look at it with both of them, phenomenal. It's the best one. It's a very, very compelling argument for us head to head. And when all of them have played, it was probably the one game that it did hit. Let's look to see if that's the same case. If when Nurkic and Markkanen played for Keontae George, that's when he got, and that it was the one time that he got his 32 points and assist. So that makes me feel a little bit more comfortable with this read today, with leaning onto Lauri Markkanen, 8 rebounds and assist. All right, guys, if you're still here after 25 minutes, I think we're making better time. Probably will need to slow down the cadence on the next one. I do appreciate you taking some time out of your day to listen to me ramble. If you decide to go with the parlay on all 4 of these, you can get them on FanDuel and probably DraftKings for the likes of marketing once they become available there. On FanDuel, you can get this at a total parlay of plus 1945. If you have any boost, I probably would take the odds a little bit more, but I can only advise that you take all of these of straights. If you are going to parlay them, round robin potentially, or just take 2 of each of your most confident, of your least confident ones. I like all of them. I'm going to parlay all of them. If you're still here, I wish you the best of luck today. Have a great one. Have fun, gamble responsibly, and may the odds be ever in your favor. Peace out.